Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Finally Talk here with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. It's so nice to have you. For those of you who are new to this program, this is something that I'm going to be doing hopefully every day for 20 or 30 minutes just to share some tips, some expertise, some of the knowledge that I've picked up along the way. So today I want to talk a little bit about what it has been like to be a dementia caregiving survivor. I took care of my mother and she had dementia. I was the primary caregiver. And it was not something that was planned, obviously, for either one of us. And it's not something where I really had a lot of time to decide what I was going to be doing. But I know there are a number of you out there who are going through something like this, whether it's dementia or something else. You are now taking care of someone. And it's difficult enough to make decisions when it's just you. But when it's you and someone you're responsible for, then it takes it to a whole different level. So I've got a few slides I'm going to share with you, but what I want to first start out saying is that anything that I present to you is based on my own opinion and my own experience. And so I do not consider anything that I say to be something that you should take to heart without doing your own research, because no matter who provides the information, and I found this out myself the hard way, especially when it comes to decision making, we really do have to be accountable and responsible for looking into things ourselves, as opposed to just saying, okay, check mark, that makes sense, I'm just going to go with it. I now, at the age of 62, I make a lot of decisions based on my gut, based on my instinct. And up until the pandemic, up until taking care of my mother, even during the first part of taking care of my mother, I did not do that. And so I made mistakes then, and I've made mistakes since then. The difference is when I make a mistake now, I take full ownership and accountability for it. So just a little bit of background. I was in a place in my life before taking care of my mother, before the pandemic, when I would ask the opinion of many people about things before I would actually go ahead and do it. Maybe you're like that too. You're not quite sure what you should do, so you ask for people's opinions. And in doing so, it's almost a way of where you don't actually move forward because you're constantly waiting for someone to agree, to disagree. And if you ask enough people on one side or the other, you probably will get just as many people who agree and just as many people who disagree. But when you're in a situation where you don't have time to solicit opinions or run polls or put social media posts or call everyone you know asking for their opinion, you have to make the best decision that you can based on the information that you have at the time. And so during the time when my mother had dementia, which was 2020, and she passed away in 2023, I didn't have any information about dementia or Alzheimer's or taking care of someone. I am a single woman and I don't have any children, and I've been pretty much on my own most of my life. So I always looked up to my mother. My mother was incredibly strong. And to be in a position where I now was responsible for her and angry in a lot of ways and argumentative because I couldn't believe that she forgot this or she forgot that. And so I was forced to make decisions. And there was a time when I was actually broadcasting, I was hosting a TV show, and one of our neighbors texted me and told me that they saw my mother out walking very close to I-95 in Florida where we lived. And so I had no way to get in touch with her because she couldn't hear her phone, and she had taken the tracking device that I had put in her shoe or something. She had taken it out. And so I had to make a decision, which was really hard. And there were a number of decisions I had to make along the way that were really tough decisions. And so what I want to just start with, I'm going to share my slides. So today's subject is how being a dementia caregiving survivor taught me to reframe decision making. And what I do know now is that decisions we make either come from a place of fear or a place of love. We obviously are not in a place to be knowing everything. And we have an opportunity when it comes to making a decision, but many times people do not act. They do not make a decision because they don't know, because they're afraid, because of what if, because of potential regret, because of potential guilt. And these are all stone walls that do not allow you to go further. So when you're caring for someone else, a lot of times you don't have that opportunity. So I want to emphasize that I became a caregiver out of love. My mother was my best friend, and I miss her truly to this day. She was more than a mother. She was really a cheerleader. She was an advocate. She was a great listener. She would not judge. In fact, I completely changed my career during the pandemic, and she was very supportive. And obviously, if you know anything about dementia, there are stages of it. But prior to her showing signs of dementia, we did so many things together and we spent so much time together. We went to so many events together. We both were kind of exercise freaks, and it was just wonderful to have that incredible bond with her. And so there was no preparation when the time came that she could no longer be alone. And when I went through this whole process, I had already retired from my corporate career about 6 months beforehand. And I thought I was going to be doing something completely different, which was life coaching. And I am a certified life, career, and executive coach. I have a lot of certifications, but this was the one I was really going to move forward with and combine it with my doctorate. And so that became clear. Now we're in a pandemic, it's 2020, and now I'm moving in to take care of my mother, and I'm in a completely different environment without a paycheck coming in and without anyone to actually give me advice and direction on what it is I needed to do. So during this time, I would say that the dementia caregiving really reframed how I make decisions. And I want to be honest with you about the dementia caregiving, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be dementia caregiving specifically, but I really survived incredible exhaustion mentally and physically, heartbreak, watching what actually takes place when someone you love starts to lose their mind. And then at the same time, a transformation took place, a transformation of not even acknowledging or knowing or understanding at the time that going through this process was going to make me a stronger person, whether I liked it or not. And when my mother finally passed away, which was completely unrelated to dementia, it was actually shocking. She ended up getting cancer, which we didn't even know. Being a caregiver and that what I went through in terms of making those decisions really stayed with me. And if any of you out there are going through something similar and you know what I'm talking about, then that really means a lot. So what I learned was during this period of time that when emotions come up for us, typically, and I'm generalizing because I don't have any statistics in front of me, but I'll just use my own experience, emotions will cloud our judgment. And so emotions will prevent us from moving forward. And it's the same thing with exhaustion. If you think of a time in your life when you've been going through a lot of things and you're just worn out. And so instead of making a decision, you decide not to make a decision. And there's an old expression, which is when you don't know what to do, do nothing. And I do believe in that in some regard. I do believe to take a pause, take a beat, think about what's going on. But I don't believe that taking an extended amount of time to make a decision is typically the right answer, because I know now what I didn't know before is that my gut and my instinct is pretty much spot on. But I wasn't listening to my gut or my instinct. I was listening to everyone else. And so when I was in this situation with my mother, again, during a pandemic, when you're in a lockdown, there was really no one to listen to because decisions had to be made moment by moment, just for safety, just to get things accomplished. So I found that when we are in an emotional state or we are exhausted, we typically are not able to make decisions, or we decide we're not going to make them. So I'm advocating that you take a pause, you think about what's going on, but then you get back on track to move forward with the decision. Because when you don't make a decision, that's really, it's stagnating you. It's keeping you from moving forward. And then what happens, in my experience, not just as a human, but as a coach, is then we have regret. We have remorse, we have guilt because we didn't do something. And then we start dramatizing it that if I had done this, then this would have happened or that would have happened. But the truth is, we don't know what would have happened. We don't know because we can't go back and we can't recreate the same scenario. So decisions that you make with your intuition based on empathy and compassion, I have found last longer than the ones that you make from a place of fear. So I'm going to take this down for a moment. If you think about high vibrations, high emotions, when you walk into a room and there's that person that has this incredible energy, you just want to go and be near that person, and you have no idea what's going on with that person, but yet they don't come across as the end of the world is coming, versus the person that you know who every time you speak to them, it's the end of the world. They're the high vibrational people and then the lower vibrational people. And there's no judgment, but you get a choice. Where do you want to align yourself? Who do you want to represent? Who do you want to be? So when we're making decisions out of a place of fear, they are lower vibrations. When we're making a decision out of a place of higher vibrations, then most likely, whatever that decision is, we can find a way to incorporate that into our life. It may not be the right decision based on what we later learn, but we can figure out, okay, this is the decision I made. How can I move forward with it and embrace it, that this is happening for me instead of to me? So when I was taking care of my mother, there were a number of times that I had to make decisions every day just about what to buy at the grocery store, how long I can be out of the house. Should I go on the walk with her, even though she doesn't want me to go on the walk? I could go on and on. Some of them might seem trivial and trite, but they're really not, because when you love someone, you think about everything that's going on, and you want to be a partner. You want to be there with compassion and empathy, especially when someone has dementia and doesn't even know that that's what's going on. So I started reframing my decision making, and I started asking myself, what really matters right now? And in this situation with being a caregiver, what I really learned, which was not a lesson I learned overnight, what I really learned was many of the things as a caregiver that we get upset about because we can't understand how our loved one is acting in that manner. And how could you not remember that? You just told me that 5 times. The question comes up, does it really matter to bring it up to them? Does it really matter to tell them that they've already told you this? Is it necessary to do that? No, it's really not. Is it kind? Probably not. Is it true? Sure, it may be true, but it's not going to change the situation with someone who is in this particular state. So what I took away from that today and in the last year and a half is I now go with my gut. I do not ask other people what their thoughts are until I've already made the decision. And so once I've made a decision, it could be something as simple as my schedule. That's it. It's in the calendar. It's done. I've now committed to it. And for things that are much more, I don't want to say important, but they may have much larger ramifications or consequences, I will stick with whatever my gut or my instinct tells me to do. And then later, I may tell my mentors, I may tell my coaches, this is what I decided to do. And they may like it, they may not like it, but I've already committed to it. And I've been able to look at it as, okay, I picked this path for a reason. So let's find the solution. Now, before the pandemic, no, I did not do this. I was very much asking people for their opinion on a regular basis and going by whatever somebody else thought. And it didn't resonate with me. And I made a lot of mistakes. And for those, I'm sorry, but I have no regret or remorse because I can't go back. I can just learn. And that's what to me matters, that every opportunity is a learning experience. How caregiving really changed my life, and again, really helped me with decision making, is now I give myself grace. I give myself grace. Back then, when I was the caregiver, I realized that in uncertain times, I also had to give myself grace. And that was a hard lesson, because when you see someone you love just changing, just transforming, I can't even say suffering because they don't even know that they actually are, I guess, declining in a way, that it takes a major toll. It took a major toll on me. And today, I rarely, I'm not going to say never, but I rarely will go back and say, I wish I had done this. I wish I had known that, because I didn't know it. I didn't know it. But I'll tell you what, I found out. I found out after the fact how to be a caregiver. I found out what it takes to protect your own mental capacity at the same time that you're caring for someone else. And that's really important. How often do you give yourself grace versus beating yourself up, telling yourself you're so stupid, you're an idiot, you did it again? And none of that adds any value, because there is research that shows, based on studies, that what we say to ourselves, what's going on in our mind, we actually believe, and then our behavior starts to align with that. So beating ourselves up as a caregiver doesn't bring any value. It doesn't help the person, and it doesn't help us. So this is part of the reframing of what I've been doing with my life now. And so I've decided the most important thing for me is to continue to give grace, also to continue to pray, to give thanks, for gratitude, for meditation, for accepting what I can control and what I can't control. You know, Mel Robbins really does a great job with her whole thought process of let them. And I think more and more about it. And then in addition to the let them, let me. We're always worried about what other people are thinking. You know, was I a good enough daughter? Was I a good enough caregiver? And the truth is, whatever other people think is immaterial, because we can't be responsible for other people's opinions, and it's none of our business. So let them think whatever it is they want to think. And for me, I think I was a pretty good daughter. But more importantly, I think I was a pretty good human being. I think I was a pretty good friend. And so I don't have any regrets. Am I sorry? Am I sad that my mother's not here? Of course I am. Absolutely, every day. But that's different than living with regret and looking back and living with remorse. Because the truth is, we're all going to pass away at some point in time. And we have some control over it based on our lifestyle choices. But in the end, we don't. So whether we're 100 or 75 or whatever the age is, there's a lot that we can do to impact our longevity and the quality of life that we have. But I know for a fact that probably, aside from the material things that I have and the degrees that I have and the accomplishments that I have, my greatest achievement is what I gave to my parents and what they gave to me and the relationship that I have with them. And that brings me peace and joy. And so when I make decisions today, I don't check with anyone. There's no one to get approval from. I make the decision and I follow my gut and I follow my intuition. And it's a result of having been a caregiver and being in isolation and being really forced to confront myself and say, you know, making phone calls or sending out emails or texts. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? It doesn't pay, because everyone has a different opinion. And in the end, whatever you decide to do, if it's not what resonates with you, you're going to either have anger, hostility, remorse, regret, because you didn't listen to yourself. As a result of all of this, I realized how important it is for us to be able to listen to each other. And obviously, there are different ways of communicating when it comes to listening, but that's really what inspired me to create Elevated Listening, the platform of Elevated Listening, for people to find peace, inner peace. And recently, someone actually questioned me about this and said, if you don't have God in your life, then you can't have peace. And so I'm not going to debate that, but what I will share with you is that, in my opinion, something created us. I mean, if you think about the birth of a child, and I haven't experienced this, just from other family members and friends, what they've gone through, but it's a miracle. It's absolutely incredible. How the human body heals itself is absolutely incredible. So something, a greater power than us as humans, is obviously, has been, and is the universe, the creator, God, Buddha, fate, whatever it is that you believe in. And so I turn my thanks and gratitude over to God, because I do believe in God. And I also believe that we have the ability to decide how we're going to show up, whether we're listening to someone or we're not. I think we have control over that. I think that as humans living with compassion, we have the ability to say, you know what, I want to be here for you. I'm going to show you compassion and empathy, and I'm going to listen. That doesn't mean I have to like what you're saying. Doesn't mean I have to be on the same page with you. So as I close out this session today of Let's Finally Talk, what I really want you to take away from this is we all have the ability to make choices. We have the ability to make decisions. And when we're not in a place of knowing ourselves, when we're not in a place of believing that we have the ability to say yes, or we have the ability to say no, and we get all caught up in what everyone else thinks, what's on the television, what our family thinks, what our friends think, what the community thinks, then we get lost. And at the same time, while we're empowered to believe and have freedom of speech and freedom of thought, we also have to be respectful to others, respecting that others feel differently, think differently, and they're entitled to that. There's not one person with one set of views that is the only way to go. It's just like with religion. There are people who believe in God, and there's different religious sects. There are people who don't believe in God. There's people who believe in the universe. There's spirituality. There's so many different things. Everyone has a right, in my opinion, to believe what they want to believe. So I believe that we have the power to make decisions based on listening to our intuition and that voice inside of us. And so that's what I would like to empower you to do, especially if you are a caregiver. Find grace, a way to take care of yourself, a way to empower yourself to say, you know what, I need to be of sound mind and body in order to be able to take care of someone else. And once you come to that stage, which is what I've experienced, I'm able to make decisions and not look back. Does that mean I'm always going to make the right decision? No. But what I will do is I will figure out how can I reframe that decision to work for me? How can I find a solution based on what I decided to do that will work? So I hope there were some nuggets of information that you'll be able to take away from today. I do want to share an additional slide, which is, I want to share this with you actually. So I'd like you to reflect on what life event has changed how you make decisions. Have you always been making decisions the same way, or did something happen and all of a sudden it was kind of a pivotal moment in your life and you said, aha, I need to revisit how I'm making decisions? Meaning, have you been making decisions from a place of fear? Or are you making decisions from a place of love? Are you making decisions based on what other people are telling you to do? Or are you making decisions based on what your intuition is telling you what to do? Where can you actually slow down and listen before reacting? How many times are you on a phone call or are you with someone and they're talking and you continuously interrupt them? Or you decide, you know what, I'm so sick of hearing this person talk, I'm just going to tell them what it is they need to do. this is not listening. This is reacting. And once you're aware of your own behavior and how you can actually slow down your breathing, slow down your thought process, and take a pause, you'll find that you're not reacting as much. And once that starts to happen and you put this into a behavior change that you're doing over and over and over and over again, you will notice things happening for you in your life that may not have been happening before. And then finally, I'm encouraging you to share your comments here in the chat or in a future session. You can reach out to me. Here's my information. I am the founder and chief listening officer of USA Global TV and Radio. I'm also a best-selling author. My newest book just came out. Actually, it came out today, I think. It's the workbook for Holy But Harmful, which I'll be sharing in a minute. I'm also a speaker, a peace ambassador, and I'm the listening mentor. So please feel free to contact me. Please go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, which my second one is also USA Global TV and Radio. And now I just want to share with you, I have a retreat coming up. It's the Listening Mentor Wellness Retreat. It's June 3rd to the 6th at the Horseshoe Farm in North Carolina. I actually just went to a retreat there. It was fantastic. I met with the ownership there. I was so impressed that I'm doing my own retreat. So we'd love to have you. And you can actually email me, drjacalyn@usaglobaltv.com, or you can go to either one of my websites, drjacalyn.com or usaglobaltv.com, and you can actually go ahead and register with a $500 deposit. And I'm very happy to make payment arrangements with you. So thank you for listening and for your attention and for being open. This is my newest book, Holy But Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment. This was an Amazon #1 new release and bestseller, and now the workbook is also available. So there are a number of exercises that you can do to really hone in on when you're judging or when you're being judged, and then how to react, how to not react. So I hope that you'll find value in this, because I know for me, once we realize how judgmental we are in some of the statements that we make, and I've got the book right here. I'll see if I can just find some of the statements, because we hear them all the time. We say them all the time, and we don't realize that they're judgmental. Sometimes we're in denial about it. Sometimes we are passive aggressive in our behavior. So here's some that I'll just share with you. If it weren't for me, you'd be nowhere. You're lucky your father and I worked this hard. Otherwise, you'd have nothing. You look great for your age. Obviously, as a stay-at-home father, you must have no ambition. These are the kind of statements that people make randomly, and they don't realize how hurtful they are. So my goal with this book is not to be accusatory or judgmental in any way. It's to help bring awareness so that you can be aware of when you're being judgmental or when someone's being judgmental towards you, and how you can control your own behavior and how you can react or not react when someone's judgmental to you. So thank you. I'll be back again tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed this particular episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss, then you can, of course, go ahead and drop them in an email at drjacalyn@usaglobaltv.com. Bye for now.